By the time I understood what actually mattered, I had already spent years on things that barely noticed me back. No one explains how that happens. You don't learn it from advice or books. You learn it by living long enough to see the choices you keep making. This is what life taught me. My name is Brian, and I'm 74. That number used to sound old. Now it just sounds precise. I have more days behind me than ahead, and that changes the way you speak. You stop trying to be clever. You stop trying to impress. You only say what feels necessary. I'm not saying this because I figured something out early. I'm saying it because some things only become clear when you've lived them long enough. Over the years, I've noticed patterns in how life quietly unfolds. Things that shape days, relationships, and energy in ways you don't see at the time. I don't claim to have all the answers. I only know what I've lived and what those years have shown me. Here's the first thing I've learned. Lesson 1. Guard your energy around negative people. I used to spend a lot of time with people who drained me without meaning to. Friends with endless complaints, relatives who thrived on small dramas, co-workers who thrived on tension. I thought I had to endure it. One evening, I remember sitting across from a friend who never had a kind word for anyone. He went on and on about problems at work, at home, in the world. I nodded politely, laughed at the right moments, but inside I felt hollow, tense, like I'd run a marathon without moving. It wasn't dramatic, nothing exploded, but by the time I got home, I barely had the patience to ask my wife about her day. I missed my children's stories. I skipped noticing the small joys that had always mattered. That's when I realized, not all attention is worth giving, and where you spend your emotional energy shapes your life more than you notice. I didn't stop caring about people. I just started protecting my focus, my calm. I chose to spend it where it mattered, the people who built me up instead of slowly wearing me down. A small change I made. If someone's conversation pulls me into tension, I step away for a moment, or redirect to something lighter, or simply listen without absorbing the negativity. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it leaves my best self for the people I love. And those moments, 10 minutes of real attention, a shared laugh, a quiet question, start to add up in ways that matter far more than enduring endless complaints ever could. Why it matters. Life is short, and the people who deserve your energy are few. Protect your attention. Preserve your calm. Invest where it counts, before the ordinary moments that matter get lost in the noise. Lesson 2. Say important things while they're still ordinary. For years, I assumed I had plenty of time. Plenty of time to say thank you. Plenty of time to ask how someone was feeling. Plenty of time to notice small kindnesses or to say the words that mattered. We live under the illusion that important things will wait. A quiet evening at the kitchen table, a conversation paused because there's always tomorrow. A note of appreciation left unsent because, well, it wasn't urgent. I remember one afternoon, my daughter left for college. I wanted to tell her how proud I was. I thought I'd wait until she came home next. By the time I finally said it, months later, it felt different. Not worse, not better, different. Less immediate, less ordinary. The words had the same meaning, but they lost some of the weight they carried in the moment. That's the reason this matters. Words spoken while ordinary carry a power that words spoken later cannot replace. They build trust, closeness, and warmth before anything threatens to pull it apart. They are small deposits into the life you're living, not withdrawals from regret later. So say the words while they're ordinary. Tell someone you notice them, even if it feels unnecessary. Say the thank you, the quiet I care, the small acknowledgement, before a reason ever appears for saying it. Because those moments, ordinary as they seem, shape how life feels in the long run. They're what people remember. They're what life remembers. Lesson 3. Don't let work decide who gets the best version of you. For years, I came home tired. Long days, meetings, deadlines. Work demanded focus, patience, energy. I felt fulfilled, responsible, successful. Everything was in its place. At home, though, I wasn't the same. Dinner got a polite smile, a short conversation, attention on autopilot. I gave the best of myself to work. What my family got was whatever was left over at the end of the day. I'm not saying anyone was wrong. I didn't feel guilty, and no one complained. It just happened. Habit formed slowly, quietly, without notice. The lesson I finally understood is simple. Your energy is not endless, and where you spend it shapes what you give and what people receive. The things that feel urgent at work are not always the things that matter most at home. The small, ordinary attention you give to people who depend on you builds far more than hours spent elsewhere. So I started making small changes. Even just 10 minutes of real conversation, listening without distraction, noticing something I would have ignored before. I didn't work less, I just shifted when and how I spent my attention. And it mattered more than I realized. Because the people around you notice the energy you bring to them long before they notice anything else. Work will survive. Relationships, they require your best while you still have it. Lesson 4. Treat time with people as limited, even when it isn't. For decades, I assumed people would always be around. Friends, family, neighbors. The thought of missing them felt distant, almost impossible. So visits were postponed, calls were delayed, shared moments were put off because there'll be time later. Dinner invitations went unanswered. Walks through the park didn't happen. Quiet afternoons passed, and I assumed I could always make it up tomorrow. Nothing dramatic happened, no crisis. Life just kept moving. Until one day, I got a call I wasn't expecting. A friend I'd been meaning to meet for coffee for months. He had passed quietly, without warning. No one dramatized it, no one called for attention. He was just gone. And in that quiet absence, I realized, later never schedules itself. That's what changed me. I treat my time differently now. I don't wait for the perfect moment to call or visit. I don't assume there's always another day. Even small interruptions, 10 minutes of attention, a walk, a short conversation, make the ordinary feel alive instead of wasted. The reason is simple. Relationships are built in the ordinary, not the urgent. The time you think you can spare later is already shaping the life you're living today. Spend it intentionally, or it disappears quietly. So if there's someone you've been meaning to see, a conversation you've been putting off, a moment to simply be present, don't wait. Act as if time is shorter than it feels, because in the end, it is. Lesson 5. Make small changes while you still can. Over the last few years, I noticed life shifting, not in a dramatic way, not suddenly, just small changes, one at a time. I started listening more carefully, waiting before speaking, paying attention to the little pauses in conversations, asking questions I might have skipped before, slowing down enough to notice what was actually happening around me. I can't say everything is perfect now. I can't claim to have fixed the past. But the small choices I started making, 10 minutes of undivided attention, a single call, noticing a smile, have quietly changed how my days feel. There's one habit I wish I'd begun much earlier. Every night I write down one small thing I noticed in someone else that day. A gesture, a glance, a word. It's simple, takes a minute, and it reminds me to notice again tomorrow. You don't have to copy it, you just need to start something small. Anything that reminds you to slow down, pay attention, and be present while you still can. Because change doesn't have to be big to matter, and ordinary moments, quietly improved, are all the life you really get. I've said what I've noticed over the years. Simple things, small things, things that shape life quietly, without drama. But memories fade when they're kept to yourself. The moments you recognize, the lessons you live, if they aren't carried forward, they disappear. It doesn't have to be grand. It can be a conversation, a note, a quiet gesture. Passing it on keeps it alive, keeps it from vanishing with time. That's why I mention it. Even noticing it once and letting someone else notice too keeps it alive. That's enough to make it matter beyond today. So these things don't disappear. If you want to keep seeing these quiet observations, these reflections from a life lived fully, subscribe. Hope we meet again.